The forest was quiet, but not in a peaceful way. It was the kind of silence that made a person's skin crawl. Tall trees stood like ancient guards, their shadows long and heavy. The air smelled of wet moss and strange flowers that glowed faintly in the dark. Somewhere deep inside this alien forest, a sound broke the silence. It was not the howl of a beast or the hiss of an insect. It was softer, weaker, and full of sadness. It was the cry of a child. The human traveler froze when he heard it. He had been walking alone for days, searching for food and a way out of the endless trees. His boots crunched against fallen leaves as he listened. The cry came again, higher this time, filled with fear. It was close, maybe just beyond the next group of glowing plants. He felt his chest tighten. On this strange world, danger could hide in every corner, but the sound of a child in pain was something he could not ignore. Slowly, he moved forward, keeping his hand near the handle of his blade. The forest floor was covered in golden leaves. Blue lights flickered among the roots, like tiny fireflies trapped in glass. He pushed aside a branch and stepped into a small clearing. That was when he saw her. The girl looked no older than 10. Her skin was the color of deep ocean water, glowing faintly under the sun's broken rays. Long silver hair fell around her face, shining like threads of moonlight. She wore a simple gray dress torn and dirty from the forest. Her bare feet were cut, her small hands trembling as she held them together. Her eyes, large and shining like crystals, looked up at him. They were filled with fear, but also with a strange kind of hope. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The traveler's breath caught in his throat. He had seen many creatures on his journeys, but never a child like this. She looked both fragile and otherworldly. Finally, she spoke, her voice soft and broken. "Be my dad. I'll behave." The words hit him like a blade. Of all the things she could have said, why those? He blinked, his heart twisting. She was asking for something no stranger would expect. Not food, not water, not even help to escape. She was asking for a father. Before he could answer, the girl's knees shook, and she stumbled forward. He rushed to catch her, his hands gently holding her arms. Her skin felt warm, almost glowing under his touch. She looked up at him again, her lips trembling. "They don't want me," she whispered. "My stepmother, she threw me out, said I was a curse." The human felt anger stir inside him. He had seen cruelty before, but to do this to a child, it was beyond heartless. He wanted to ask more, but a low growl cut through the air. The trees around them shivered. Birds took flight. Something was moving in the shadows. From behind the girl, a shape emerged. A creature tall as a wolf, but with skin the same glowing blue as the girl. Its eyes burned bright, and its sharp teeth glistened in the faint light. The traveler's hand shot to his blade, ready to defend, but the girl quickly shook her head, stepping between them. "No," she whispered, her voice firm for the first time. "He protects me." The creature padded forward, its body lean but powerful. It sniffed the air, then sat beside the girl. Like a loyal guardian, the human stared in disbelief. A wild beast tamed by a child? Or maybe it was something deeper, a bond not made by force but by blood or fate. The silence returned, heavier than before. The human wanted to speak, to ask her name, to understand who she was. But then, from deep within the forest, another sound. Rows, boots, voices, the sharp clink of weapons. The girl's face turned pale, her hands clutching his sleeve. "They're coming," she whispered. Her eyes glistened with terror. "My stepmother's soldiers. They will take me back and I will disappear." The human's heart pounded. The choice lay heavy on him. Walk away, or take the girl's hand and face whatever was coming. Every instinct told him that this was not his fight. But when he looked into her crystal blue eyes, wide and pleading, he felt something shift inside him. She had no one else, no family, no safety, only him. The sound of soldiers grew louder, the crunch of boots drawing nearer. The girl's alien wolf growled, its fur bristling, eyes locked. On the trees, the traveler tightened his grip on his blade. The air seemed to hold its breath. He knew he had only seconds to decide. The girl tugged at his arm, whispering again, "Be my dad." Please. The forest trembled. The shadows closed in. The first soldier's helmet glinted through the leaves, and in that moment, the human knew. His life would never be the same again. The human stood frozen as the sound of soldiers grew louder. The forest no longer felt silent. It pulsed with danger, every shadow heavy with threat. The girl clung to his sleeve, her crystal blue eyes wide with fear. Beside her, the glowing wolf gave a low growl, its sharp teeth glistening under the faint golden light. He could walk away. It was the logical choice. He had no reason to fight soldiers on a strange planet for a child he did not know, but her words echoed inside his mind like a hammer striking stone. Be my dad, I'll behave. The human looked down at her trembling hands. She was shaking, but she was also holding on to him like he was her last hope. Something deep inside him stirred, something he thought he had lost long ago. The feeling of responsibility, the weight of protecting someone weaker. It made his chest heavy, but it also lit a spark of courage. The soldiers' voices carried through the trees now. Search this way, one shouted. She cannot have gone far. Another barked. The crunch of boots and the clatter of weapons rang in the air. The human tightened his grip on his blade. The choice was no longer far away. It was right here, pressing against his heart. The girl tugged his arm, her whisper, urgent. If they find me, they will take me and I will vanish forever. Her words were simple, but the fear in them was sharper than any weapon. The glowing wolf stepped forward, ears raised, tail stiff, ready to defend her with its life. The human's jaw clenched. He had fought for food, for shelter, for survival. But never for something like this. Never for a child who was not his. The forest around them seemed to bend under the weight of the decision. The golden leaves rustled as the wind passed through. The glowing plants pulsed faintly, as if waiting for his answer. Finally, he exhaled and knelt down in front of the girl. His voice was low but steady. I don't know what this means, but if you stay with me, I will protect you. Her eyes widened, shimmering with sudden hope. For a moment, she almost smiled, but then the sounds of soldiers snapped her back into fear. The human rose quickly and pulled her behind him. The wolf moved closer, its growl deepening. The soldiers were seconds away. Through the trees, metal armor gleamed. 3 soldiers pushed into the clearing, their faces hidden behind sharp helmets. They carried long alien weapons that hummed with strange energy. When their eyes fell on the girl, one of them pointed, There! She's with a human! The girl whimpered and pressed closer to his side. The wolf's growl rose like thunder, echoing across the clearing. The human raised his blade, his voice steady. You'll have to get through me first. The soldiers laughed, but their laughter was cold and cruel. Step aside, wanderer. One of them sneered. She belongs to us. She belongs to no one, the human answered. His stance tightened, his blade reflecting the faint light of the glowing plants. The soldiers exchanged looks, then spread out, forming a half circle around him. The girl's breathing quickened, her small hand clutching the fabric of his sleeve. He felt the weight of her trust, and it gave him strength. The first soldier lunged forward, weapon raised. The human ducked low, swinging his blade. The clash of metal and energy rang through the clearing, sparks flying. The wolf leapt forward, knocking another soldier to the ground with a snarl. The third soldier tried to grab the girl, but the human's blade flashed, forcing him back. The fight was fast but brutal. The soldiers were trained, but the human fought with something they did not have. Desperation. Every strike he made was not for himself, but for the small child hiding behind him. The wolf tore into the second soldier's arm, sending his weapon clattering to the ground. The human knocked the first soldier back, his blade pressing dangerously close to the man's throat. Retreat, one of them shouted. The soldiers stumbled back into the shadows of the forest, dragging their injured comrade with them. Their voices echoed as they fled. We'll be back. You cannot hide her forever. The forest grew silent again. Broken, only by the girl's quick breaths, the human lowered his blade, his hands shaking from the fight. He turned to the girl, who looked at him with wide, shining eyes. You stayed, she whispered, almost in disbelief. He nodded, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. I said I would protect you, and I will. The girl's lips trembled, and for the first time she let out a small, shaky smile. The wolf padded back to her side, its glowing fur dim but steady. But the human knew the soldiers would not give up so easily. They would return, and next time they would bring more. He looked around the forest, scanning the paths, searching for a way to escape. They had only one chance: to disappear deeper, into the shadows before the stepmother's army closed in. He bent down and met the girl's eyes once more. "What's your name?" he asked softly. She hesitated, her voice barely more than a whisper. "Leora." The human nodded, the name settling in his heart like a vow. "Stay close to me, Leora," he said. "We will find a way out, together." The girl nodded quickly, clutching his hand with a strength that surprised him. The wolf gave a short growl as if agreeing. And then, without another word, the human led them into the dark path of the forest. Behind them, the shadows shifted, and somewhere far off, the sound of marching feet began again. They were no longer safe. The chase had only just begun. The forest seemed endless, yet every tree felt like it was watching them. The human pushed forward, pulling Leora by the hand, while the glowing wolf padded close behind. The sound of marching boots still echoed far behind them, growing fainter but never truly gone. He knew the soldiers would not stop. They would chase them until she was caught. The human's breath came heavy. He had fought before, but never while protecting a child. Every branch that snapped under his boots felt like a signal to their hunters. Every shadow seemed ready to reach out and drag them back. Yet he kept moving, because stopping meant losing her. Leora stumbled now and then, her small feet cut by stones and roots, but she did not complain. She held tight to his hand, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark. She trusted him completely. That trust weighed on him more than the blade on his back. The forest grew stranger as they went deeper. The trees twisted into shapes that looked almost human. Their bark glowed faintly with symbols that pulsed like beating hearts. Strange flowers opened as they passed, releasing silver dust into the air. It sparkled like stars, but it made the human uneasy. This place felt alive. Too alive. Suddenly, the wolf stopped, ears raised, its glowing eyes scanned the shadows. The human tightened his grip on his blade. "What is it?" he whispered. Leora clutched his sleeve, her body trembling. "They're close," she said softly, her voice almost shaking. "I can feel them." The human's eyes narrowed. "How?" Leora hesitated, biting her lip. "My stepmother bound me with a mark. It lets her hunters sense me if I stay too long in one place." She raised her sleeve, showing a faint glowing scar on her arm. The human's chest tightened, anger burning inside him. To brand a child like property. It was worse than cruelty. It was slavery. The sound of branches breaking snapped his thoughts. Shadows moved among the trees. The soldiers were spreading out, trying to surround them. The human glanced ahead, searching desperately for a path. That was when he saw the cliff. The ground dropped suddenly, vanishing into a sheer wall of stone. Beyond it stretched a deep valley filled with fog. The glow of strange creatures flickered far below. It was beautiful but deadly. One wrong step would mean falling into the abyss. Leora gasped, pulling back. "We can't go that way." The wolf growled, pacing at the cliff's edge. The humans' mind raced. Behind them, the soldiers' voices grew louder, closer, spread out. "They are near." He looked at Leora, her face pale with fear. He had promised to protect her, and now he was trapped between an army and a fall that promised death. For a moment, hopelessness clawed at him. But then, a faint shimmer caught his eye. To the left, half hidden by hanging vines, he saw it. A narrow crack in the stone wall, a cave entrance, dark and deep. It was their only chance. "Come," he whispered firmly. He pushed Leora toward the opening, pulling the vines aside. The wolf slipped in first, its glowing fur vanishing. Into the darkness Leora followed, her small figure almost swallowed by the shadows. The human entered last, his blade still in hand. The moment they stepped inside, the forest noises grew muffled. The world outside felt far away, but the danger was not gone. The cave was not ordinary. The walls pulsed with faint blue veins of light. The floor was smooth, almost polished. It felt less like stone and more like the inside of something alive. The human skin prickled as he moved deeper. Leora whispered, her voice trembling. "I've heard stories of places like this. Old places hidden long before my stepmother was born." Her words sent a chill down his spine. What kind of place had they walked into? The wolf growled low but did not stop moving. It seemed to know the path, as if guiding them. They walked deeper until the light of the entrance faded. Only the glowing veins on the walls gave them sight. The silence here was heavier, thicker. The human's heart pounded in his chest. Yet, despite the fear, there was something strange about this cave, something that called to the girl. Leora's steps slowed, her hand brushing against the glowing stone. The walls pulsed brighter under her touch. It was as if the cave itself was responding to her. Her eyes widened. "It knows me," she whispered. The human frowned, uneasy. "What do you mean?" Before she could answer, the ground trembled. A deep rumble rolled through the cave. Dust fell from above, and the glowing veins brightened. The wolf barked sharply, stepping in front of them. The human raised his blade, his body tense. From the darkness ahead, a sound echoed. A slow, heavy breathing like something ancient had just awakened. The girl's face turned pale. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "It's waking up. And it knows I'm here." The cave shook harder. The walls seemed to pulse like a heartbeat, faster and faster. The human grabbed Leora, pulling her close. The wolf's growl filled the air, low and sharp. Something massive shifted in the shadows. Two glowing eyes opened in the darkness ahead. The human's grip on his blade tightened. They had escaped the soldiers, but now they had awakened something far worse. The cave shook like a living beast. Dust rained down from above, and the glowing veins on the walls pulsed faster. The sound of breathing echoed through the darkness, slow, heavy, and powerful. Two enormous eyes glowed ahead, bright as twin moons, watching them from the shadows. The human pulled Leora behind him, his blade steady in his hand. The wolf bared its teeth, growling deep and low, its glowing fur bristling. Leora clutched the human's sleeve, her voice trembling. "It's not a beast. It's something older, something bound to this place." The human narrowed his eyes but did not take a step back. "What is it?" he asked, his voice firm but low. Leora swallowed hard, her crystal blue eyes wide. "My stepmother always feared me finding places like this because they wake when I am near." The words chilled him more than the rumble of the cave. "What do you mean, wake?" he asked. Leora lifted her small arm, showing the faint, scarred mark that glowed against her blue skin. "This mark is not just to track me," she whispered. "It is to keep me weak, because my blood carries something that can stir the old powers of this world." The human frowned, the weight of her words sinking in. "Your stepmother cast you out because she was afraid of you," he said slowly. Leora nodded, her lips trembling. "She called me a curse, but really, she feared that if I learned what I am, I could break her control." The breathing grew louder, shaking the ground under their feet. The wolf barked sharply, standing between them and the darkness ahead. The human tightened his grip on his blade, his mind racing. If what Leora said was true, she was not just a lost child. She was something far greater, something dangerous. But looking at her small face, pale and scared, he also saw innocence. She had not asked for this power. She only wanted a home. The cave trembled again, and from the shadows, a massive shape moved forward. The creature stepped into the faint glow of the walls. It was unlike anything the human had ever seen. A towering body made of stone and roots, with veins of blue light running through it like blood. Its face was jagged and ancient, its eyes glowing brighter than fire. Every step it took made the cave walls shake. Leora's hand slipped into the human's. Her voice was soft, almost pleading. "I think it is tied to me." The creature stopped, lowering its massive head toward her. The human raised his blade instinctively, but the girl shook her head quickly. No, don't fight it. If I can reach it, maybe it won't harm us. The human hesitated, torn between his instinct to protect her and the strange trust shining in her eyes. He watched as she slowly stepped forward, her small figure dwarfed by the giant. Her glowing skin reflected in its enormous eyes. She placed her hand on the glowing vein of the cave wall. The moment her skin touched the stone, the whole chamber lit up. The blue veins across the walls pulsed like lightning. The air filled with a low hum, deep and powerful. The creature's body glowed brighter, and it let out a sound that was not a roar, but something older. A voice. The words echoed in the cave, not spoken aloud but vibrating inside their chests. The blood has returned. After so long, the human froze, his eyes darting to Leora. She looked just as shocked as he was. The wolf barked once, uneasy. Leora's voice shook as she whispered, "It knows me. It knows what I am." The creature lowered its massive, stone hand, placing it on the ground before her like an offering. The human stepped forward, ready to pull her back, but she shook her head. She reached out, her tiny hand glowing faintly as it touched the creature's stone finger. The hum grew louder, filling the cave until the walls seemed ready to crack. Then the sound faded, and silence fell. The creature slowly stepped back. Its glowing eyes fixed on her, it spoke again, its voice like thunder. "Child of the hidden light, your power cannot be caged forever." The human's heart pounded. He wanted answers, but before he could speak, the ground shook violently. The wolf barked and leapt to the girl's side. From the cave entrance, voices echoed. The soldiers, they had found them. The human cursed under his breath. The creature's eyes dimmed slightly, turning toward the sound. Its deep voice rumbled again. "They come for what is not theirs. Will you fight for the child?" The human gripped his blade. Tighter, his jaw set. He looked down at Leora, who clung to his arm, her eyes begging him not to let go. "Yes," he said firmly. The creature let out a sound that shook the cave like a drum beat. The walls glowed brighter, and cracks split open, forming a path deeper into the earth. "Then go," it rumbled. "Protect her, for the storm has only begun." The human wasted no time, pulling Leora and the wolf toward the glowing path. Behind them, the first shouts of soldiers filled the cave. Energy weapons lit the darkness, beams flashing against the stone. The creature roared, shaking the ground, blocking the soldiers' way. The human glanced back one last time as the massive figure stood like a wall between them and death. Then he led Leora into the crack, the wolf close behind. The tunnel swallowed them in glowing light. But even as they escaped, Leora whispered with trembling lips, "If my stepmother learns that I woke this place, she will never stop hunting us." The human looked at her, his heart heavy. He knew she was right, and somewhere deep inside, he feared what else her power might awaken. The tunnel glowed as they ran, the walls alive with pulsing blue veins. The human gripped Leora's hand, pulling her through the twisting path. The wolf darted ahead, its glowing fur lighting the way. Behind them, the echoes of soldiers' shouts still chased, mixed with the thunderous roars of the stone giant blocking their way. Every step shook the ground, the air filled with dust and strange light. The human's lungs burned, but he did not slow down. Leora stumbled once, but he caught her quickly, pulling her back onto her feet. Her crystal eyes shimmered with tears, but she did not cry out. She only whispered, "They will never stop. My stepmother will never stop." The human squeezed her hand tighter. "Then we won't stop either," he said firmly. But inside, doubt gnawed at him. How could one man, a lost wanderer, protect a child who carried power strong enough to wake giants? The tunnel widened suddenly, spilling them into a vast chamber. The ceiling rose high above like a cathedral. Stalactites hung down, glowing faintly with light. The floor was cracked stone, and in the center stood something that made the humans breath catch. It was a pool, but not of water. Instead, liquid light swirled inside it, shifting colors of silver, blue, and gold. The air around it vibrated softly, like a song that could not be heard but felt. The wolf stopped at the edge, growling low, its ears flat. Leora froze, her eyes wide as she stared at the pool. I know this place," she whispered. The human turned to her quickly. What do you mean? Her small hands trembled as she clutched the fabric of her torn dress. My stepmother spoke of this in whispers, she said softly. She called it the heart of the world, the place where the first light sleeps. The human's chest tightened. What happens if someone touches it? Leora shook her head, her silver hair falling over her face. She said it awakens what is inside, and for me, that means the power I cannot control. Before the human could answer, the ground trembled. Again from the tunnel behind them, the echo of soldiers' boots grew louder. A sharp voice cut through the air. Don't let them escape. The girl must be taken alive. The human's grip on his blade tightened. There was no way back and no other path forward. The soldiers were almost upon them, weapons humming. The wolf barked, leaping in front of Leora. The human stood beside, it ready to fight to the end. But Leora stepped forward, her gaze fixed on the glowing pool. Her voice was small but steady. If they take me, I will vanish forever. But if I awaken what is inside me, maybe I can protect us. The human's heart pounded. Leora, it's too dangerous, he said. Her eyes turned to him, shimmering with fear but also with determination. You promised to protect me, she whispered. But maybe now, I have to protect you too. The soldiers burst into the chamber, their weapons raised. Beams of energy cut across the stone, sparking against the walls. The human raised his blade and charged, striking down the first soldier who entered. The wolf lunged at another, its glowing fangs tearing into armor, but more poured in, surrounding them. One soldier pushed past the fight, reaching for the girl. Leora gasped, stumbling back until her heel touched the edge of the glowing pool. The human shouted her name, but it was too late. The soldier lunged. Instinctively, Leora threw up her hands, light exploded. The pool surged upward like a living flame, swallowing her in silver and gold. The soldier was thrown back, his armor cracking as he hit the stone wall. The chamber filled with blinding light. The human shielded his eyes, his heart frozen in fear. When the light dimmed, he saw her. Leora was floating above the pool, her small body glowing like a star. Her silver hair flowed around her as if caught in an invisible wind. Her eyes burned bright, no longer soft and childlike, but filled with power too vast for her small frame. The glowing veins on the cave walls pulsed faster, brighter, as if answering her call. The soldiers froze, their weapons lowering in shock. What is she? One of them whispered, fear in his voice. Leora's voice filled the chamber, though her lips barely moved. I am not a curse, she said, her tone both child and something far older. I am the light you tried to bury. The soldiers panicked, firing wildly, but the beams bent before reaching her, breaking like water against stone. She raised her hand and the ground shook violently. The pool of light erupted again, knocking soldiers into the walls. Some fled screaming, their courage broken. The human could only watch, torn between awe and fear. This was no longer the fragile girl who begged him to be her father. This was something greater, something terrifying. Leora, he called, his voice sharp but steady. Come back, don't lose yourself. Her glowing eyes flickered toward him. For a moment her expression softened, the small child returning beneath the light. Daddy, she whispered, her voice cracking. I don't want this power, but I can't stop it. The human stepped closer, ignoring the shaking ground. You are not alone, he said firmly. You are not a curse, and you are not a weapon. You are my daughter, and I will never leave you. Tears formed in her glowing eyes, mixing with the light. Her body trembled as the power raged through her. The wolf howled, the sound echoing across the chamber. For a moment it seemed like she might gain control. But then the pool roared again, brighter than ever. The walls cracked, stone falling. From above, the chamber was collapsing. The human rushed forward, his arms outstretched. The soldiers who remained scrambled to escape as the ceiling broke apart. Leora, he shouted, his voice echoing. She reached out toward him, her fingers glowing. Daddy, save me. And then, with a deafening crash, the entire chamber gave way. The pool of light swallowed everything, pulling them into its heart. The world was light and thunder. The human felt himself falling through a storm of glowing silver and blue. His arms reached desperately for Leora, her small hand just beyond his grasp. The wolf howled somewhere close, its glowing fur a streak in the chaos. Then suddenly the storm broke. He slammed onto solid ground, stone cracking beneath his boots. The air was thick with dust and glowing mist. Above, the ceiling of the great chamber had collapsed, sealing the way back. The pool of light was gone, but its energy still hummed in the air, and at the center of it all, Leora lay motionless. "Leora!" the human shouted, his voice raw. He ran to her, dropping his blade. Her body still glowed faintly, her silver hair spread across the stone like fallen starlight. Her chest rose and fell, shallow but alive. The wolf padded to her side, licking her hand, whimpering softly. The human lifted her into his arms. Her small body felt fragile, yet a warmth pulsed through her skin, like holding a living ember. Her eyes fluttered open, glowing faintly. "Daddy," she whispered weakly. Tears stung his eyes, but he forced his voice steady. "I'm here. I will never let go." The ground trembled again, this time from above. A sharp voice echoed through the broken cave, cold and cruel. "Well, isn't this touching?" The human froze, lifting his eyes. Through the dust and cracks in the ceiling, a shadow stepped into view. Tall, regal, and filled with malice. Leora's stepmother. She stood clad in dark armor that shimmered with unnatural light. A crown of twisted crystal rested on her head. Her eyes glowed sharp green. Piercing like blades, around her stood soldiers, their weapons raised, but none dared step forward without her command. The stepmother's voice carried across the cavern. "You should have died when I cast you out," she spat, her tone dripping with venom. "Instead, you wake the old powers and draw strangers into my world." Her gaze shifted to the human, sharp and mocking. "And you, wanderer, do you think you can play father to a curse?" The human rose slowly, keeping Leora in his arms. His jaw tightened, his eyes unshaken. "She is no curse," he said firmly, his voice echoing through the broken chamber. "She is my daughter, and I will protect her with my life." The stepmother laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You, a broken man clinging to a lost child? You cannot even protect yourself." Her hand raised, glowing with dark energy. The air crackled, heavy with power. The soldiers shifted uneasily, fear flickering in their eyes. Leora stirred weakly, clutching the human's sleeve. Her voice cracked, but her words were clear. "Don't let her take me." The human's heart burned. He set her gently on the ground, brushing her silver hair back. He whispered so only she could hear, "I will never let anyone take you again. This, I swear." The wolf stepped beside him, growling, its fur blazing brighter. The human picked up his blade, its steel glowing faintly in the strange light. He turned to face the stepmother, standing tall despite the weight of fear pressing against him. "I am no king, no soldier, no chosen one," he said, "but I am her father, and that is enough to stand against you." For the first time, the stepmother's smile faltered, her eyes narrowed. "You think her power makes her special," she said coldly, "but her power belongs to me. She was born to serve, not to rule." Her voice rose, sharp as a blade. "She is mine." The cavern shook as her energy lashed out. Dark beams shot from her hands, striking the stone and sending shards flying. The human raised his blade, deflecting one strike. The wolf leapt aside, dodging another. The soldiers began to advance, their weapons humming. The human's body screamed with exhaustion, but his will burned brighter. Every strike he blocked, every step he held, was fueled by one truth. He was no longer just fighting for survival. He was fighting for his daughter, Leora's. Weak voice cut through the chaos. Her glowing eyes opened wider, trembling with fear and hope. "Daddy, don't fight alone," she whispered. Her small hand glowed as she pressed it to the ground. The cracks in the cavern pulsed with light again. The same ancient energy that had awakened before answered her call. The stepmother's eyes widened, rage flashing across her face. "No, you will not take what is mine." She raised both hands, her dark power clashing against the rising light of the cavern. The ground split, beams of light and shadow battling in the air. The wolf howled, its voice echoing like thunder. The human gritted his teeth, standing in the middle of the storm. He shouted above the chaos, "You will never have her. She has a family now. Me." The cavern roared, shaking as if the world itself listened. The stepmother's energy slammed into the human's blade. The force threw him back, but he dug his boots into the stone, refusing to fall. Light from Leora's hand surged stronger, wrapping around him like a shield. For a moment, their bond was visible, father and daughter connected by light. The stepmother's face twisted with fury. Her soldiers faltered, fear spreading among them as the cavern blazed brighter. The battle was reaching its peak, and in that final moment, her voice cut through the air, filled with hate. "If I cannot have her alive, then I will crush you both." The cavern walls cracked violently, the ceiling beginning to collapse again. The stepmother raised her hands, summoning a storm of dark energy. The human tightened his grip on his blade. Leora clutched her chest, her glow building like a star. Ready to burst, the wolf lowered its body, ready to leap into the fight. The air held its breath. Light and darkness coiled together, ready to collide. And then, everything shattered in a blinding flash. The cavern shook like the heart of a dying world. Stone split apart and streams of light and shadow clashed in the air. The stepmother stood tall, her dark energy swirling around her like a storm. Her soldiers backed away, their courage broken by the sight of powers too great for mortal hands. The human gripped his blade, his body bruised and weak, but his spirit unbroken. Beside him, the wolf snarled, glowing brighter with every heartbeat. And behind him, Leora rose slowly, her small body trembling, yet her glow stronger than ever. The stepmother's voice rang out, cruel and sharp. "You are nothing but a shadow clinging to a child that is not yours," she spat. "She belongs to me. Her power is mine by right." The human raised his blade, his voice steady and loud. "She belongs to no one, not to you, not to me, not to anyone." His eyes locked with Leora's, softening. "She is my daughter, and I will fight for her until my last breath," the stepmother screamed in fury, unleashing a wave of dark energy. It shot across the cavern like a black tide. The human braced himself, but before the wave could reach him, Leora stepped forward. Her small hands glowed with silver light, and the darkness shattered against her like glass. Her voice echoed, soft yet filled with power. "You can't take me anymore. I choose where I belong." The wolf leapt at the soldiers, scattering them. The human charged at the stepmother, his blade clashing against her swirling energy. Every strike was like striking a wall of fire, but he refused to fall. Each swing was powered not by skill but by love and fury. The stepmother snarled, her crown glowing as she forced him back. "You cannot win. You are only human." The human spat blood but raised his blade again. "Then it will be a human who ends you." Behind him, Leora raised her hands higher. The veins of the cavern walls pulsed with light, answering her call. She cried out, her voice filled with both fear and strength. "I am not your curse. I am the light you could never control." The cavern exploded with brightness. The soldiers screamed, fleeing as shadows broke apart around them. The stepmother shielded her eyes, her scream echoing, "No, stop this!" But the light did not stop. It poured from Leora, weaving into the human's blade. The dull steel now glowed with the brilliance of a star. The human felt the surge flow through him. He lifted the blade high, his voice shaking the chamber. "For my daughter," he swung down. The blade struck the stepmother's shield of darkness. For a heartbeat, light and shadow warred in silence. Then, with a deafening crack, her shield shattered. The blast threw her backward, crashing against the cavern wall, her crown cracked, falling in broken shards. She struggled to rise, fury twisting her face, but her power flickered, weak and fading. She glared at Leora with venom. You ruined everything." Leora's glow dimmed softly as she stepped forward. Her small voice was clear, filled with quiet strength. "You tried to make me a prisoner, but I found a family instead." The stepmother's mouth opened in rage, but no words came. Her body crumbled into shadows, swallowed by the light until she was gone. Silence fell, broken only by the sound of falling dust. The soldiers who remained fled into the tunnels, too afraid to look back. The cavern's glow faded to a calm pulse. The wolf padded to Leora's side, nuzzling her hand gently. The human dropped to one knee, exhaustion finally pressing him down. His blade clattered to the stone, no longer glowing. He looked at Leora, his voice hoarse. "It's over." Leora's eyes shimmered with tears. She ran to him, throwing her small arms around his neck. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "You didn't leave me. You never left me." He hugged her tightly, his heart breaking and healing at the same time. "Never," he said, his voice firm. "I told you, I'm your father now. That will never change." The cavern gave a final rumble, as if sighing, in relief. Then it grew still, the danger gone. The human lifted Leora into his arms, her head resting against his shoulder. The wolf walked beside them, silent and proud. They made their way out of the broken tunnels, step by step, until at last the forest greeted them again. The air outside was fresh, the trees glowing softly under the starlit sky. The nightmare was behind them, but the journey ahead was unknown. The human looked down at the girl in his arms. She had been cast away, hunted, called a curse, but now she had a family, and he had a daughter. Leora looked up at him, her crystal eyes bright. "Daddy," she whispered, a small smile touching her lips. "Are we safe now?" The human paused, scanning the forest around them. He knew the galaxy would not forget the power she carried. He knew new enemies might rise. But he also knew one thing with absolute certainty. "As long as we're together," he said softly. "Yes, we are safe." The wolf howled gently, its voice echoing through the glowing trees. The stars above shone brighter. And for the first time, Leora did not feel like a curse. She felt like a child, loved, wanted, and home.